Well, welcome back to our weekly series, Learning with Lindsey, where we talk to our very own meteorologist, Lindsey Gaffney, about the weather in our area. Lindsey, we're talking about kind of what happened this past, weekend with the storm. So tell us more about it.
What we had was, we call it, you can see at the top, quasi-linear convective system. That's a QLCS or a squall line. You can have all kinds of names for it. And this is where it starts. So we've got our cold front moving in. Now, we also had a dry line that kind of interacted with it, so a lot was going on last night, but this is where we start. These little green dots, that's the little pop-up showers right ahead of that boundary or right on top of it, and then we have the cold air moving in. Now, this is called wind shear, so winds kind of spin into it, which pulls our downdraft from each of these little storms into the next one. So over here, those storms will continue to grow, and ahead of that front, wind shear will push that downdraft back behind it, and then you have these winds ahead of behind the cold front also interacting with this system, and then eventually it turns into this one long storm because of that wind shear, and then we have this interaction of that cold front winds as well. That's going to what we call bow echo, so bow that segment out, which really causes a massive wind threat. And I know we got up to 70, 80 mile per hour winds because of this whole system. Then on top of that, so this is a QLCS. You can see how that forms, and we'll show in a moment the radar scans that we saw yesterday. But what happens is we have our major wind threat. You could also see hail in that, and spin up tornadoes. Now, these are really hard to see. They're not going to be as strong as some of these winds that we see, those wind gusts, but they still can pop up because we have these winds coming in this direction, and then behind the cold front, perpendicular to it, which can cause a little quick rotation, spin up no more than an EF0, EF1. But you can see the threats over here. Intense winds are going to be what we see with a QLCS. It's a linear structure. So anything that pops up well ahead of that front is going to be more of that tornado threat that we see.
Sure. And when it gets like this, that's really where the danger sets in for people.
For wind damage. Not as much of a tornado threat. You could still see spin-ups, but wind damage is going to be the major killer here. So this is our radar scan. You can see this little blue line. That's the cold front. Now, we did have a dry line kind of pushing in some of these storms, another little interaction with it, but that's the bow echo. So that's where our wind threat was. I wonder if I can see. This is Springfield. So there's Baxter Springs. I know they had a lot of damage out there right as this little bow echo really started to push in. So they got a lot of that threat. I know the Joplin area had some pretty strong winds as well. Joplin Airport measured about 65, 70 mile per hour winds. So pretty damaging winds with that system.
It's important that people know that tornadoes really aren't the only thing to worry about.
Oh yeah, winds can be just as damaging as any tornadoes.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lindsey. We'll be right back.